Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Happy Friday, TGIF. Thanks for joining. I'm going to wait a second for people to join. And the future Yashica Latimer is already here early and is already requesting to be joining the live. That's amazing. I love when that happens. You know what? Let's have you just join because I feel like we have so much to talk about. Future Dr. Latimer. And we just want to get to know you. So, okay. Thanks for joining. We're going to give people a few minutes to join. Hi, Yashica. Can you hear me? I can hear you. It's so good to see you. So I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we met probably a few times on Right Away, but I've been hearing so much about you. We're not going to start the interview yet, but Dr. Lacey's like, you have to talk to Yashica.
Oh, that's so
Yashica's
sweet.
is gonna just drop so many gems. I'm like, okay, we're gonna do it. So I appreciate you even being here with your really busy schedule.
Well, I hope I
Yeah.
don't let her down with what she's expecting. I'm a little nervous, but we'll see what happens.
Listen, you've gone over and beyond expectations, and we're going to get into that. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We have so many people here. We have Language of Play PhD here. I am her, MD is here. Judy Gambrell's here. Dr. Mays is here. And NY Learby is here. Future Dr. Blankenship is here. Thank you so much for being here, everyone, on a Friday. TGIF. Okay, so we're going to get started. For anyone who's on this live, if you have any questions for the future Dr. Latimer as we're doing this interview, please drop them in the comments and we will be sure to get to them. Okay, so hi everyone, welcome back. We are doing another Instagram live and today we're doing things a little bit differently. You've had a chance to listen to some of our wonderful alumni talk about their experiences and finish your dissertation. And you know what? We're like, okay, we need to talk with some of our incredible scholars who are current clients inside the Finish Your Dissertation program. So that's what we're doing today. We're calling this series Reflections with Current FYD Clients. And for our first interview in this series, we have none other than the future Dr. Yashica Latimer here to talk with us today. So welcome, Yashica. It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate this so much.
Of course, we appreciate you. And, I'm going to start out with asking you who you are and where you're at. Let's start there.
Okay, so I am Yashica Latimer, and I am currently a coordinator for mathematics instruction for a school district in South Carolina. And what else do you want to know about me? Let's see. So I can just kind of briefly tell you a little bit about how I got to this process. I was a mathematics teacher in middle school for about 12 years, and I realized that some of the practices that I was using in my classroom were considered best practices, but not necessarily being used by teachers across the board. And so I was trying to find ways to get my voice heard. And I saw going back to get my doctorate degree as a way of doing that and to be able to still impart knowledge into teachers and students and overall impact student achievement, particularly for students of color, because that was my baby. That's my heart.
Yes, your heart. I love how you conceptualize that. And we actually have a few other of our scholars from South Carolina, North Carolina area. So hello, shout out to North and South Carolina. Thank you so much for telling us about who you are. And before I ask the next question, I just want to give everyone some context about who Yashica is and how she has shown up in inside the Finish Your Dissertation program. So, Yashica, you're new. You've been in the program for about 2 months?
Yes. I think I started, so I met with Dr. Lacey in December. I just kind of sent her a message in Instagram and just, was like, hey, interested in this, want to know if this is a good fit for me. Do you mind doing a consultation with me? And so we did. And then I began the program after Christmas. So I started officially in January.
So January is officially when Yashica, you started. And I just want to make something clear. I want to give context to everyone. Yashica has really hit the ground running as a new client. And what do we mean by that? Dr. Lacey, Dr. Breeden, who are on the team, have really talked about the ways that, one, Yashica's writing is amazing. So Dr. Lacey gave me some insight into your process so far as a client and said, listen, the first session, I told Yashica to change her study, and Yashica was like, okay, and wrote it. She says you basically wrote your proposal, even though it was chapter 1. But, the way you've come into this program is, like, you make your own worksheets, I hear, for the top 3, for the brain dump. You wrote your chapter 1 in a couple of weeks. I just want to ask you, what does that feel like, hearing the way that you've shown up in this program? Like, how did it feel to have a new coach say, I think you need to change the study, and you went ahead and you literally wrote chapter 1?
Yeah, so coming into the program, I had all of these ideas, and I had written several proposals for my advisor. And every time I would get it back and say, hey, you have multiple studies in here, or, you have good ideas, but we need you to funnel it down. This is too much. And I couldn't quite figure out how to do that. And then I didn't feel like I was getting the support from my advisor that I would have liked to have received from my advisor. I kind of started comparing myself with other students who were finishing the program ahead of me. And then I just felt like the world was against me, so to speak. And in one of my proposal attempts, I had read Dr. Lacey's dissertation, actually. So when a friend of mine at work said, hey, have you heard about Dr. Lacey and the Qual Scholars? And I was like, wait a minute, I think I briefly saw something about that a few years back. So let me go check it out. So when I initially met with her, I think one of the first things I remember saying is, I feel like I'm capable of doing this. I just don't feel like I have the tools. And so I felt like, I kept receiving direction to go back to the drawing board and go do this and go do this. And I felt like I was getting the runaround. And so, I remember sitting at home crying one night and was like, I'm not dumb. I'm not incompetent. I just don't know how to do this process. And I need someone to sit down with me and tell me and guide me through how to do this process without making me feel like I was less than them, and without making me feel like, I couldn't write, because I had also received that type of direction. Like, you can't write, you need to take a writing course, you need to do this, you need to do that. And all of the feedback that I was getting didn't align with what I was internalizing, that I knew I could complete the program. I just didn't feel like I had the tools to be successful in doing it. So when I sat down with Dr. Lacey during our first meeting and, just kind of told her some of the things, the directions that I had started in, because I changed my topic 3 different times because of COVID and other, conditions, extenuating circumstances that I couldn't control. And so I just said, here's what I've been thinking and here's where I am. And I also remember saying, I want to complete this process, and I understand that I've got to play the game to complete the process. So I knew what I originally wanted to study and what I was originally passionate about was maybe a little too controversial for the school that I was trying to graduate from. And I knew that it may have also put my advisor in a position to where may not necessarily have been favorable for her, and so I don't want to take away from anything. I was very angry at my advisor for a very long time. But I just knew I wanted to complete the process and try to streamline to get to one study to be able to finish. So I battled between, do I want an award-winning dissertation or do I want to finish this dissertation? So when she said, hey, I think you can still use what you're wanting to use, which is culturally responsive teaching in mathematics education. But I think we can kind of, streamline this to get to where we need to be. And then the first session, just talking through, and I'm probably jumping ahead of your question, sorry.
No, you're not.
Just talking through the process with her and Dr. Greenan. I remember them just opening up a Google Doc. And as I was talking, they were just typing up and, putting in there what I was saying and reorganizing it. And I was putting it in my own words, so I didn't feel the pressure of having to say, Gloria Latson-Billings stated, and whatever the next piece was. So I was just able to articulate my thoughts. And I remember both of them taking those thoughts and rearranging them. And so by the time I finished, I think with my first session with Dr. Lacey, we had an outline for, it was supposed to be an outline for a couple of paragraphs to do. And as I started writing it, it just began to click because I could see the pieces that she wanted me to work on. And my mind started churning on how I could streamline that and try to make it into one dissertation or into one study. And so I just started rolling with it and I kept flowing. So in my first right-away call, I put in the chat that I'm going to write 2 paragraphs tonight. And when we finished that call, I think I had like 4 or 5. So the next day after I got off of work, I was like, hey, I'm on a roll. Let's just keep going. And I just kept throwing it out there and kept going with it. And so by my next, I do the one-on-one coaching with Dr. Lacey. So by my next meeting, we were able to go through that and kind of put it together. And I submitted it for edits with Dr. Greenan and got my feedback. And the feedback almost blew me away because, again, I had already been told that I couldn't write and that I need serious help with writing. And so for her to say, your thoughts are concise and clear, and I understand where you're going with this, I was like, wait, did she just tell me that because I'm paying for this service? Or did she tell me that because she really meant it? So then when I sat down with Dr. Lacey and she's reading through this and she's like, whoa, you're a lot further than where, I thought you were going to be. And I just reiterated again, I wasn't ignorant. I wasn't incompetent. I just did not know how to do the process. And that's what I've been asking for the past 2 years, is for someone to sit down and guide me through the process. I wanted to focus on productive struggle, not just struggling. And, as an educator, that's an important facet of teaching kids in the classroom. So I just really could not fathom why at the higher ed level, we didn't have educators trying to promote productive struggle. So it was just really refreshing to have that support and to help me get to that point. So that's really how I got there. I don't want to take credit on my own. It was literally them taking those pieces and aligning them and saying, hey, you created the problem statement. Hey, you created your purpose statement in here. And then once I saw the thoughts the way that someone else heard it, so once I read it from their perspective, I was able to go back and say, really, that wasn't what I was saying. And so let me be a little more concise about where I'm trying to get to. And that's how I ended up attempting to do chapter 1, and then ended up being a whole proposal outline.
Wow, a whole proposal. And by the way, Dr. Lacey is like, Yashica's defending this proposal this semester. It's happening. and I want to clarify one thing. Yashica, you are a one-on-one client with Dr. Lacey. And so through that vessel, you do one-on-one coaching sessions with Dr. Lacey. But also as a one-on-one client, you get feedback as well. And then you're able to join our right-away sessions. And so if you are interested in the Finish Your Dissertation program, we do group coaching there. You still get access to unlimited feedback. You still get access to dissertation courses right away. So I wanted to clarify that. But I wanted to go back and just say what I think is so exciting about interviewing today is that you embody what Dr. Lacy talks about, which is this idea of being coachable. Mm-hmm. To have a dissertation coach, you have to be coachable. And so I appreciate the way that you came in with your anger, right? Like with emotions of rewriting this proposal, with doubts, but you were committed to being coachable despite this past experience. So I want to uplift that. And I also want to uplift what I try to say to myself is, we are not incompetent. We're not dumb. We're not stupid. We have never done a dissertation before. We have never pursued a PhD before. So Dr. Lacy would say, so how do you know what to do?
Correct.
How do you know, right? How are they going to know? And I really appreciate that you have that mindset, because sometimes that thought of, we're incompetent, we don't know enough, can really stall us. It has stalled me in my process of writing my dissertation. But I really appreciate the way that you talked about how feedback from Dr. Breeden, from Dr. Lacy, affirming you, validating you, helping you make the connections is how you're making progress. So thank you for uplifting that.
Oh, I mean, that's truly what actually happened, because I did, up until this point, just to be transparent, up until I started coaching, every time that I would go back and try to write a paragraph to resubmit, I would go through so many emotions, and I would remember what was said to me. So I would remember, oh, you can't write. And so sometimes writing one paragraph was just so horrific that it was, like almost like pulling teeth to try to get it out. And I would have those instances where, I knew what I wanted to say, and I knew what I needed to get on paper, but the tears are flowing because in the back of my mind, I'm still hearing the doubt, the negativity, the naysayers about how you can't get to this process. And for the most part, that was my advisor, and that was very hurtful. So having someone to sit down and say, hey, you've done it. This is working. And I've also submitted my proposal to another committee member who just provided feedback the other night and was like, whoa, great job here. Just some recommendations here, and here. But, great job on putting this together. And I was like, all I needed was this added piece of support. And even on the group sessions, listening to you guys talk through some of the things that you're doing with your dissertations, because we're all at various levels. So that helps
Right.
me to even think back through, all right, have I been attentive to this part of what I've already put in here? Are there other changes that I need to make? It's just great to have that support system.
I love that for you. And, like I said, like we're talking about, like those statements or observations about our writing can really stick with us. But, I appreciate in the program this idea of a shitty paragraph or a brain dump. And I want to ask you, when you think about where you were with struggling to even write a paragraph to the way that you're brain dumping now, how does that feel?
It feels great, because even when I would make attempts to try to do brain dumps before, so one of my committee members did recommend that, and he would always say, hey, just write a shitty rough draft, write a shitty paragraph. And I was like, no, you don't understand. I can't do that, because I'm also a perfectionist. And so having to, and I'm still there, so I'm not going to say I'm still there, but I also attended some counseling sessions on like understanding your triggers and understanding how to navigate imposter syndrome, because that's truly what I was experiencing at that point. So now just to be able to sit down and free write and just brain dump whatever it is that I'm thinking and saying, okay, it's okay if this is a hot mess, right? And it's okay if some of these pieces I never use, but at least I had a process to get these thoughts out on paper so that I can get to the ultimate goal of what it was that I was trying to say, which for me has been phenomenal, because as a child, I loved creative writing, and I loved doing those, writing poems and things like that. So once I took the pressure off by listening to, podcasts and listening to Dr. Lacey and listening to Dr. Breeden, and taking the pressure off of just being able to write freely, and then coming back and saying, all right, now let's see what let's go for it. The first brain dump, I didn't even realize that I had that much information to put on paper. I would have never thought it. And then reading so many dissertations from other people, because my advisor told me just read as much as you can find on your topic. And I'm reading all of these pieces, and I was like, I'll never be able to write a dissertation because I can't even write my portion, this one little paragraph, without feeling like I'm plagiarizing someone else, right? And then the more you read, especially in an area, in a topic where there's not a lot of research, they all start to sound the same. And so I'm sitting here going, well, shoot, everybody's plagiarizing. Like, how do I ever get out of this program? And so to take that piece off of not trying to create a citation as I was writing, to just write it and then go back and look and see, where do I need citations? Where can I add this piece to it? Does this really say what I'm trying to say? That was just refreshing, because I didn't have to worry about that added pressure of, am I plagiarizing? Because if I don't look at anyone else's stuff and I just write what's in my head, then it's coming out of my thoughts, and then I can go back and see where I need to add those citations.
Wow, Yashica, I just want to commend you for really embodying, we talk about progress over perfection inside Finish Your Dissertation. We talk about the fact that you actually do know enough, and not only that, but you are enough. And not only that, is you have enough. And I think the way that you're talking about brain dumping, you really have to have that mindset to get to a place to write these, first rough, messy, hot mess, shitty paragraphs. And you really are doing that.
Thank you. Yeah. And even just to encourage someone, like, there's times when I say, or when we say, like, it's a mess, and I'm sure you could probably speak to that as well. There are times where I'm writing and I'm in full thought, and I get there and I'm like, I just forgot what I was writing about. And I will put that on paper. So I've also tried to do time limits where, like, when, how we were talking about journaling 10 minutes a day. And so I'll try to do like a writing for a particular time. So for instance, our Sunday and Wednesday night calls, that's my time limit. And so during that time, I'm writing whatever comes to my mind, whether it makes sense or not. And then I just go back in and revise it afterwards. But at least I have that time frame where I'm putting the first thing that comes to mind on paper.
That's so important, because you are incredibly busy. Like, I know you're tutoring, you're teaching, you're doing all the things. And that's why when we are inside Finish Your Dissertation, we talk about the scholar planning routine and being realistic about working 10 hours a week. And that's it. And for some of us who have childcare responsibilities, family responsibilities, full-time jobs, even that is hard. But like you said, you are there to capitalize Sunday nights, Wednesday nights, and even if that's all you can do that week, at least you showed up and you wrote for that time.
Right.
Yes, that's so important. I really appreciate you just walking us through your journey here. And remember, anyone on, if you have any questions for Yashica, please put them in the comments. We'll be happy to ask them and answer them. But I wanted to ask you, you've talked a little bit about it already, but I want to make sure it's clear to everyone. When you think about the components of Qual Scholars, whether it's the coaching, the dissertation courses, the write-aways, the feedback, what do you think has helped you the most to make progress on this proposal?
Definitely the accountability. So, the Sunday and Wednesday calls. One of the biggest things, though, that I appreciate is the modules that we have. And so being able to, one, sit down and talk about it with everyone. And then even if, if someone mentions something that I know was in that module and I'm like, hey, I might have missed that, I have the opportunity to go back through it again. I have the worksheets, so I'm still a print girl. I'll print out all of those sheets and I'm sitting here writing and making notes as I'm going through and listening to the modules. So no matter how many times I feel like I don't get it, I don't necessarily have to keep saying I don't get it. I can go back through the modules. But even if I want to say, hey, Alex, I didn't quite get this one, there's a no judgment zone, which is super nice because, it's refreshing to have someone to sit down and say, okay, where are you? Let me help you through this process, and to have the space to just vent, right? So for me to, like the first podcast I listened to, I think where Dr. Lacey said, your advisor's human. And I was like, yeah, maybe she is, maybe she isn't. Like I hear you, but I'm not hearing you right now kind of deal. So when you get out of your feelings, you still have that space to go back and listen to it over and over again for you to actually make progress in what you're doing. Because I think I shared with Dr. Lacey one other time that there was one point in time where I was so angered with my advisor that a friend of mine and I were like, hey, we can really wait for her after work and go jump her kind of thing. Because, so after you get out of your feelings and you can actually go back and focus on what's happening there, it's nice to have those modules. It's nice to have the worksheets. It's nice to have the camaraderie. Having people in different spaces and different segments of the journey is great, because then I know if I'm at a spot that I need help with, I can ask someone. And then just now being able to be to this point to where I can share my journey. So, if any part of my journey is able to help someone else get to that spot, then I think that's a phenomenal area to be in.
It really is. And, I just want to really reiterate what Yashica's saying is that there is no dumb question. Like, you will find us in our right-away calls being like, what is paradigm again? Or I'm not sure if my methodology, if I'm defining it right. And it's like, okay, like here, let's talk this through. Let's talk this out. And then we have each other to say, oh, did you go and watch that one call about coding, about this and that? So we really just invite the questions. We encourage the questions inside our program. So I really appreciate you uplifting that.
Yeah, the right-away calls are actually therapeutic, I would say. So, if you haven't joined yet, you definitely want to join and get on those right-away calls because, there's times where I appreciate that we have the opportunity to write, but also appreciate that you have the space to where if you need the coaching, you can get the coaching. And if you just need to talk through some things, you have that opportunity to talk through those things at that point in time too. There's no pressure. There's no pressure. And that's the beauty of it.
Sorry, I just had to yell at my dog. And I want to just tell people what Yashica is really saying too is even this month, our theme inside FYD is improving your relationship with your advisor, with your chair. And it does take a couple iterations where I've been there myself. Like, you're so upset, you're so mad, like, you can't even see past that anger. So maybe a podcast episode about your advisor is human doesn't hit like it's supposed to. But then we talk about it and right away. We literally like, what are 10 things you can be grateful for about your advisor, Or we're like, oh, you're mad today? Like, we see you in your anger, right? Like, we validate your anger. And Dr. Lacey will ask, but do you want to be doctor or do you want to be angry? And so we don't, and I think it's important because a lot of times I feel like spaces we can do like trauma bonding, like whose advisor is more oppressive. And what we're really trying to do inside Finish Your Dissertation is say, yes, you can be angry, you can be mad, but you also need to let it go in order to make progress. And so I think it's important to like talk about the way that we really build our curriculum around the realities of this graduate school dissertation journey. So thank you for talking about that too.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, the journey is not for punks. It's it's not for the faint at heart. It's definitely something that you have to be willing to persevere through, and definitely willing to understand that people are people, and sometimes hurt people, and sometimes people didn't receive the tools that they needed to go through the journey, and so that's their only way of trying to put you through the journey is the same that they did. And like I said, get out your feelings, because the ultimate goal is to get your 3 letters and keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Yes, mic drop right there. I really just feel like someone's going to hear that message today and need it. So thank you so much, Yashica. And, I want to ask you, if you knew that there was someone on the fence about joining Finish Your Dissertation, what would you say to them to get them off that fence and into the program?
So the first thing that I would or the first reason why I would probably guess that you're on the fence is the fee. And because that was one of my issues with joining the program. I have 3 kids, and, married, all the things, just moved to a new area, building a house. So it was like, hey, I don't know if I necessarily have the funds to do this. But again, being a coordinator for mathematics instruction, math is what I do, right? And so sitting down and saying, all right, I think it was in one of the podcasts where Dr. Lacey said, well, how much money are you still giving the university while you're not finishing it? And I'm sitting here going, yeah, because, I'm throwing away this money. So if the money is a factor, one of the things that I would recommend that you do is one of the things that I did. And I thought about all the ways I was already throwing away money and how I could take that money and use it towards an ultimate goal, right? And so, I think about the number of times we eat out per week, right? So could I go to the grocery store and cook a meal instead? I'm a shopaholic, so how many outfits have I purchased that are still sitting up in my closet with the tags on it, right? How many times have I said I'm going to lose weight in the next 2 months and I joined a weight loss program and never did any of the components to it? So understanding what your ultimate goal is and finding ways to cut back from what you need to actually get into the program, I think would be a pivotal choice. I think also you have to go back to your why. If you are in a dissertation program, why did you begin it? And so stopping at this point, what would it accomplish? Getting out of your feelings of that you're weak if you're asking for help, right? Particularly as women of color, that tends to, be the cloud above our heads, where we don't want people to know that we actually need assistance in this, and we don't want people to, try to judge us. So understanding your ultimate goal, finding ways to get the money to do the program, and think about, if it takes me 2 more years to finish this, how much am I paying them in tuition throughout those 2 years, where I could possibly pay just 1 year of tuition and for this program, which would still amount to the same thing and save myself a little less headache as far as trying to get through the process. But ultimately, like I said, just going back to your why, like, why do you want to do this? Is it an ultimate goal of yours? Are you trying to impact other people? Or, did you just think this was for kicks and giggles? And so if you thought it was for kicks and giggles, it may not be the program for you. But if you're really and truly trying to get to the point to obtain your doctorate degree, to get to the next level, to get your next pay increase, because that's going to happen for many, or to even get to the population of students or, faculty that you want to work with, to make yourself relevant at the table. If you want to get to the seat at the table, then you have to do what you have to do to get there. And sometimes we're in the microwave generation, where we want it quick, but we don't want to put the work in. We don't want to put the time in. And so, if you want to be a doctor, you got to put the work in, and that work sometimes requires the financial component to it as well. So I say rip the Band-Aid off and jump in. If you're afraid to start full force, start small and enter the program and see if it works for you. And if it didn't, or if it doesn't, which I'm sure it will. So if it don't work for you, send me a message in the inbox and say, hey, and then I promise you I will reach back out to you and find out what's happening there. But if you just give it a shot, I think you couldn't go wrong with it. Like, if I would have known this program existed 5 years ago, there's no way I would have ever entered this entire process without it.
Absolutely. I feel the same way. And for folks out there who are like, oh, I can pull the Band-Aid halfway off, I do want to say, come join us this Sunday. We're having a free workshop called Rebounding After Missed Deadlines. And Dr. Lacey is literally going to walk you through how to create a realistic timeline for your dissertation. Dr. Lacey is going to literally go over the scholar planning routine that all current clients use, and even past clients, alumni still use. We're going to go over mindset, and you're going to get even a sweeter taste than you are here of FYD. So link is in the bio to register to sign up for that workshop. It is this Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern. It's called the Rebounding After Missed Deadlines workshop, and current clients are going to be there too, and you're going to get a little like taste of how we all vibe, because it really is a vibe.
Absolutely.
Yes. And one thing I did want to just uplift that, listen, Yashica Latimer here is the mathematical curriculum genius. And I'm like, to create a sort of document to say, where can I sort of reshift finances? That's a really smart idea. I want to uplift an idea I always say. So my mom always is like, make sure you save the receipts to your books so that you could put them on your taxes, anything for school. And I'm like, Mom, I don't buy anything. Everything's PDF. But finally, I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask my tax guy, can I write off my payments for a dissertation coach? Because technically they're for my education. I know everyone's taxes don't work the same, and I get that, but it worked for me. I wrote off my dissertation coach receipts and got that, that tax return, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's a little tidbit from me and Yashica, your neighborhood finance mathematical folks. But I want to, there's a question in the chat. Alicia, hi. And Alicia asks, at what point in the PhD process should you begin working with Dr. Lacey? I will say for me, I started working with Dr. Lacey before I started my dissertation. So right after my comprehensive exams, I literally was looking for a new advisor. And when I started with Dr. Lacey is when I started my proposal. So I entered in that way. Yashica, can you repeat for the folks when you started working? At what point in your process did you start working with Dr. Lacey?
Absolutely. Yes, I was already a PhD candidate before I went in to work with Dr. Lacey. So I already completed my comps. So in my program, after you complete your comps, you are a candidate. And I'd already written a couple of proposals for my advisor and needed to refine those proposals. So I was I was maybe about year 4 before I actually began the program with her. So I think it just kind of depends on the program that you're in as far as when you start your process. I definitely feel like some of the free sessions, even if you're just beginning your PhD program, would be beneficial for you to kind of join, to just see what's happening, to see if it's a spot to where you could jump in a little bit earlier. I think it also depends on the parameters of your PhD program. So some of them are a little more prescriptive than others. And so I think it's going to have to cater to your needs and what you need to do. But definitely if you're just beginning, join in Sunday, join in on all of those free calls so that you can get some insight into what's happening there. And some portions of it, like the lit review, I think even if you're beginning your PhD program, the lit review course I think would be pivotal in there, because I remember at the beginning of my PhD program writing papers for classes and writing, proposals for conferences, and not even really and truly understanding how to do the lit review process. So that may not be a bad option to do early on either.
That's so great to bring up, Yashica. Thank you so much. So what Yashica is talking about, for folks who don't know, is we have a 30-day literature review workshop. It's really like asynchronous, like the modules are there for you to learn how to write your literature review in this time frame. And we've actually had a few folks pay to be in the literature review workshop and then join FYD. So Cat Stevens, which, by the way, we're going to be doing another IG Live with Cat Stevens on Monday, on President's Day, actually was one of the clients who did the 30-day literature review workshop and then joined Finish Your Dissertation. And she'll talk more about like why she made that decision. So Alicia, maybe the literature review workshop is something that can really prepare you for thinking about how to read, write, and edit separately for your comprehensive exams. And also, like Yashica said, come Sunday, come learn about our scholar planning routine and learn about create your timeline even before your comps. Why not go into your comps having a dissertation timeline? So join us Sunday, link in bio, for our Rebounding After Missed Deadlines workshop at 3 p.m. Eastern. So that's a great question. Thank you so much. Any other questions from folks for Yashica? Please let us know in the chat. But I wanted to ask you, Yashica, thinking about our entire conversation, you've just talked about what it looks like to hit the ground running as a new client. And is there anything else you want people to know, either about your journey or anything that comes to mind?
Oh gosh. Just understand that, like I said before, this journey is not for the faint at heart. And you're not alone, so whatever it is that you feel like you're experiencing, even though you may feel like it's in isolation, you're not alone. Many of us have similar stories. And some of us, our stories are so similar that if you took our names off of them, you may not even be able to tell the difference between the people. So just never giving up on your dream and what you're trying to do. We're here. There's a community here to help you through whatever the process is, whatever questions that you have. I think it's just pivotal to create the support system. And I will tell you, I tried to create a support system like this before with just other grad students in my program, other grad students across the college. Once they received what they needed, they would fall out of the program. So you didn't have that ongoing support because, as people finished their comps, they were done, or as people finished their proposal, or as people graduated, they didn't come back and continue with the program. So it's nice in this aspect that we have, alumni. We have people at varying levels, working through the process. So I think it's pivotal to have an ongoing support system. And then even when you finish the program, having the opportunity or possibility to even be able to come back and continue giving to, the people that you want to make sure are impacted by what it is that you're trying to do. I will also tell you, even though some of my friends might think I'm crazy when I say this, but now that I've actually been able to outline my proposal, even though I was angry at my advisor, there's certain parts that I appreciate, right? And when I tell you I was angry at my advisor, I've tried to replace my advisor 3 times, and I was not successful in any of those attempts. I thought about leaving the program to go to another program, and just realizing that I'd have to start all over in the process. So, putting your big girl panties on, or your big boy underoos, I don't know who's on the call, but putting it all together and just going in and doing what it is that you're tasked to do, and understand that everything is done for a purpose. Everything is done in time, and everything is done for a reason. And so if you're not where you initially thought you should have been, it's okay. Pick up the pieces, keep going. The whole thing about Sunday coming up with how to recuperate when you miss the deadlines. And it's a process, it's a journey. So if this is something that you thought was going to be instant, it's not going to be that way. If you've fallen off the bandwagon, it's okay. Jump back on, get back up and keep coming, keep going until you finish it. It doesn't matter if if you've done it for 2 years and threw in the towel. I had somebody throw the towel right back at me. So if you need someone to throw the towel back at you, holler at your girl. We'll get you where you need to be. But, just making sure that you stay true to who you are, understanding that you are enough, and, you can finish it. You can finish it. So I am bound to finish this journey. And so I would love to have you guys come on if you're not already working with us. But, you are enough. And the first thing that I really appreciate is at the beginning of the program, they already identify. You're already getting an email that says, welcome, Dr. whatever your name is. And so it's, prophecy, and it's speaking to where it is that you're trying to go, your end goal. And so there's so much support here. There's so much love here. No judgment zone. As I said at the very beginning of the call, I don't know how many of you were on then, but no judgment zone, and we can do it. So let's jump on and get it together.
We can do it. Let's jump on and get it together. Words spoken by Dr. Latimer, who, yes, when you enter into the Finish Your Dissertation program, you are doctor. We see you as doctor, and that does wonders to one's mindset and soul and all the things. Wow, I just want to thank you so much, Yashica, for being here today, giving us your time, dropping gems. I invite everyone to watch this replay and to, reach out to us if you have any questions after hearing the amazing story of the future Dr. Yashica Latimer. We hope to see you all on Sunday again for the Rebounding After Missed Deadlines workshop. Bring your friends, because we know you have that friend that's just like spiraling. Bring them, bring yourself. We'll be there. Link in bio to sign up for that. And thank you so much, Yashica. We appreciate hearing your testimony today and hearing a little bit about your journey.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys having me.
Of course. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to do something for Self-Care Saturday. And we'll definitely be seeing you soon, Yashica, okay?
Thanks. You too.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Bye. Have a good
Bye.
weekend.